Hey guys, and welcome to week 24 of my fat loss series. My measurements were the same as last week, and this week was a diet break week, meaning that I ate at maintenance calories. Thus, my average daily calories were around 3,500. I still lost 1.6 kilos off of my average weekly weight, which is the biggest reduction so far. Of course, it's not because of anything I did this week, it's because of all the efforts I put in the previous weeks leading up to this one. Fat loss is always consistent if you're eating at a calorie deficit, but weight loss happens in these kinds of waves because of water weight fluctuations. Finally, my average daily steps were just above 14,000, so I'm back in the swing of things after being either injured or sick for the past 2 weeks. This week I encountered a weight loss problem. My belt is running out of notches. I might have to drill some new ones onto it. In a video not too long ago where I listed some factors that have made this weight loss journey as successful as it has been, one of them was making consistent modifications to my training program to keep it as fresh as possible. This is because I am someone who easily gets bored with repetitiveness, unless it builds towards a goal that I'm extremely passionate about. When my goals in training are clear, I can do a very simple and repetitive program like the starting strength linear progression for weeks and months on end. But when the goals are not clear, repetitive training slowly becomes a chore, leading to a gradual loss of motivation and an eventual burnout if left unchecked. Well, during this cut my goals in training haven't been too clear. Trying not to lose muscle or strength isn't really specific enough, so I've had to vary up my training to keep it from becoming too dreadful. This doesn't seem to be for a lack of trying either, or at least that's the way I've felt about it so far. But when I start thinking more about it, maybe it is. When people are dieting, they can often find themselves thinking that I'm losing weight, so of course I'll lose strength and muscle as well. Or at least I won't gain any strength or muscle unless I start doing a completely novel exercise. Then I might gain some technical proficiency for a while. This likely causes you not to push as hard when things eventually do become tough or when there is a small setback and you give up much more easily. In your mind, you didn't fail because of a lack of trying, but because you are losing weight. And in your mind, weight loss means that strength or muscle gain shouldn't be expected. I have done a few different kinds of training methods with different goals during this cut, and always kinda just stopped and switched things up as soon as they got tough, because of this exact mindset. Perhaps this really has been beneficial to me because losing weight is already a very tough goal that requires a lot of focus and effort, so sometimes training really might have to take a backseat to that. But my optimization brain can't help but feel like there should be a way to achieve both at the same time, losing fat and progressing in your training. However, you probably have to be a whole lot smarter about it if you want to do that, and not expect things to move forward too quickly, especially on the training side of things. I'm going to try this for the rest of this cut by picking a sustainable program from my past that I successfully increased my strength with in 2020 while also losing weight. This is what it looked like back in 2020. 2 volume workouts early on in the week with a lot of work in them, followed by 2 intensity workouts later on in the week where you perform new 5-rep maxes every week. It's a 4-day variant of the Texas method, or one of the many that you can come up with. The idea behind this is that you stress your body on your volume workouts, you recover from them, and then you adapt to perform new 5-rep maxes on your intensity days. Though the intensity days themselves are also a stress recovery adaptation event on their own, just in a little bit different way and a little bit less so because they have less work. Once the progress on your intensity day stops, it means that adaptation is no longer occurring, so you need to increase the stress of your volume workouts. Provided you start it conservatively and patiently, and doing too much work isn't the problem. This is a huge reason why starting too light is virtually always preferable to starting too heavy. If you stagnate from too little work, you can always easily increase the stress, and in the process you learn your minimum threshold for adaptation. But if you stagnate from too much work, it gets more complicated because now you're dealing with some combination of nagging pains, overuse problems, and excessive fatigue. And removing stuff from your program is always a bummer because it may feel like you're suddenly downgrading your program. I'm gonna use nearly the same program as I did in 2020, but with some small modifications because of stuff I've learned since then. I'll use lifts like the high bar squat, dumbbell bench press, and Romanian deadlift for building strength on my volume days, while I'll use the power lifts and the overhead press for testing strength on my intensity days. My training week starts with the first volume workout on Monday, where I begin with the high bar squats for 5 sets of 5. And this applies to every exercise on both volume workouts, but I'm going to use weights that are a little bit challenging but nowhere near maximal, and I will go up in load whenever the weights start feeling kinda easy. The high bar squats are then followed up with the dumbbell bench press in order to expose the chest to some decent range of motion while still keeping the resistance somewhat respectable. This is done for 4 sets of 8 reps, but because the dumbbells only go up in 2.5 kilo increments per arm, I might have to play around with the rep ranges for progression, thus going between 6 and 8 or 8 and 10. We'll see. Then after the dumbbell bench press, I'll finish off the first volume workout with some back work, doing the one-arm dumbbell row also for 4 sets of 8 reps. But just like on the dumbbell bench press, I'll have to play around with the rep range on this one as well for more consistent progression. Then I'll have a rest day on Tuesday to recover from Monday's workout, and on Wednesday I'll have my second volume workout of the week, starting off with the Romanian deadlift for 5 sets of 5 reps. Then moving on to the incline bench press for 5 sets of 5 reps. I'm choosing not to do overhead press on my volume days because I really don't think it builds that much muscle. So I'm choosing to go with an incline pressing variation instead, and a pretty low incline at that. Then the third and the final exercise of this day is the chin-up. I've just marked this down as 4 sets, not specifying the rep range, but I'll either do them with just my body weight for as many reps as I can with a comfortable RPE, or I'll aim for around 4 sets of 8 reps with some added weight. Then Thursday is off again, and on Friday I'll have my first intensity day, starting off with the low bar squats for a 5 rep max. Obviously, this being my first week, I'm starting off very easy, probably leaving 5 reps in the tank. This week I started off with just 125 kilos. Haven't performed the low bar squat or the bench press or deadlift or overhead press for 3 months now. Then next I'll move on to the bench press, also performing a 5 rep max, but this week of course I started off with just 100 kilos. And after this I'll do a couple back off sets of 5 with about a 10% reduction in weight. For most people the upper body needs a lot more volume than the lower body does. And finally I'll perform the barbell row off the floor for 3 sets of 5 reps. Not trying to go for any 5 rep maxes or anything, but still trying to go up in weight consistently. Then, because the week is 7 days long and not 8, I won't have a rest day between the 2 intensity workouts, and I'll do my next intensity workout the next day on Saturday. Starting off with the deadlift for a 5 rep max similar to the low bar squat, and this week I started off with just 145 kilos. Then I'll move on to the overhead press, also performing a 5 rep max, and this week I started off with 55 kilos. I was pleasantly surprised with how easily this moved after not performing any kind of an overhead press variation for 3 months. Then, just like on the bench press, after my top set, I'll perform 2 additional back off sets of 5 with a 10% load reduction. Finally, I'll finish off the second intensity day and the whole training week with 3 sets of 5 chin-ups, using an approach similar to the barbell row. Anyway, that is the entire training week on my new old program. It is kind of a far cry from the AB workout split that I showed a couple weeks ago that I was supposed to go with. I sometimes have trouble sticking with a plan, or even just choosing a goal to begin with. I like to keep my options open and kind of process and think about what I even want to achieve. But then when I do find something, I really do give it my all. And this is it for now. It doesn't get any better than this. It's something I've done for several months in a row in the past, and I know it's sustainable and I know it works. So this is what I'm going with for the foreseeable future. I'm gonna give it my all, and I'm gonna milk it for everything it's worth. Anyway, that's all I wanted to talk about this week. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.